good, EJ?
Hey, what's good, man?
Good. Welcome to the Art Sounds Familiar platform. The reason I actually invited you on this platform is because I believe you to be an amazing artist. And I feel that based on how far you've gone along in your journey, you would definitely be a valuable resource to people that are trying to follow a similar path, that are trying to be creative and kind of do their own thing. Before we start, I'll give you the floor to give a basic introduction to who you are, where you're from, and stuff like that.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on your show too. Especially, I don't want to say that I'm, all big and bad or whatever like that, but I'm trying and I'm grinding.
Right. Nah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, but my name's Elijah Prince. I'm an artist based in the DMV area, so DC, Maryland, Virginia area. That's going to be on the East Coast of America, of course.
Okay.
Pretty much I love figural work. I do all sorts of mediums, whether it be pen and ink, charcoal, graphite, watercolor, Copic marker, you name it, I'll probably do it or am planning to do it. I usually draw black women and animals, mainly.
Okay.
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. And what kind of led you to that aesthetic? Like growing up, like how did your art develop to where now you are specifically focused on the black woman and these animal figures and stuff?
Yeah, so when I was growing up, I really loved comic books. I just love them a lot. I still do actually. I'm making my own comic book right now. Shameless plug. It's called Weightless. It's on everything you can think of. Tapas. What is it called? Webtoons and stuff like that.
Okay.
But I really love them. I love the aesthetic. And also my father was an artist or is an artist currently.
Okay.
And he does a lot of work with like linoleum cut, just all sorts of mediums and everything like that. So I was super inspired by him with all of his work.
Okay.
But I would always create comic books, create characters and stuff. I remember playing on the playground with my friends and such. And we just run around and pretend to be these like little characters and everything with superpowers. So that's how I got started with art. As I grew up, especially middle school, high school, and such like that, I would get into different art programs, and we focus on creating sort of different projects. The usual, just building up skill base and everything. And once I got into college, I started focusing more on the fine art side. I
Okay.
still love drawing comic books and drawing characters and such like that, but the fine art side kind of it got to me. Like I really loved. Um, I'm not sure. I think it's just the intensity of the amount of work that you put into one singular piece.
Okay.
As well as like you can see the final project or product and then move on to like another piece in that series, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. No.
Um, and so after that, we started working on different projects. Brent, I know, like for the viewers and stuff like that, Brent and myself, we went to the same school, and we would work on these. We started in junior sim. So junior seminar is pretty much a course where you have to focus on making a series essentially.
Mhm.
So a series of different works and pieces and such. The series that I worked on for junior sim was called Blood, Blood. And each letter in that, pretty much the word was analogous to a piece. And so it was birth, life, open, opposition, and then death. That's what each piece was called.
Mhm.
And each piece was centered around a woman's life, pretty much from birth, and not just like a generalized woman, but a particular woman. Pretty much telling the story of her life, where she went, all the things that she interacted with, her children, and then subsequent death,
Right.
and all of the power that goes into a single life and the ramifications and impact that that life has on other people. Um, and with that junior sim, we had to really delve deep into why we were doing it, being intentional on what we were doing, like the mark making, everything, just for the basic artwork and everything like that, but also just like the concepts behind it.
Right.
And it really got me thinking about the art world in general and what we see. We see these major fine artists and everything like that, and they're doing great work, and we see all the masters and everything. But one thing that we don't really see is the Black experience. That's one thing that has always been undercurrent. We saw a lot of it during the Great Migration, everything like that. We see a lot of amazing work from amazing people, but that's maybe what 100 years out of the entirety of human history and everything. We focus
Yeah.
on the American Black experience through artwork. So that was something that was really important to me and really crucial to me. Is to focus on that Black experience,
Okay.
as well as just to focus on the Black woman in general, because at the end of the day, one thing that's crucial for a society to function is men and women. We
Right.
we need people to essentially procreate to continue the next generation, and women are the only thing in a society that can continue that growth of the next generation, to
Right.
have a child and to raise that child up, of course, with the husband, with the man in that situation. But a woman is the only one who can actually nurture a child and let them grow in a particular way. I
Right.
think that's really crucial and really important. And that's something that is super, like, people don't really think about it. And if we
Hmm.
do think about it, we just toss it away.
Right.
So this is pretty much a long roundabout explanation to get to my main point, which is my work now is to highlight that aspect, the woman, the Black woman, what that means to me, what she means to me. And when I think of the Black woman, I think of my mother. When I think of the Black woman, I think of my grandmother, my sister, my friends. I think of those people who are incredibly crucial in my life
Hmm.
that aren't really highlighted
Yeah.
in media, aren't really highlighted in artwork. We're seeing a few a little bits and pieces of focus, but we see a lot of fetishization. We see a lot of whatever with that, but we don't really see that, just the actual looking and really seeing where she's at.
Right.
So that's what I'm trying to get into. Not to speak for her, but just to depict.
Right. Right. And so I guess then it is your experiences that you've had, for instance, like with your family, that has propelled you into like this direction in art form.
Yes,
Okay.
most definitely.
What would you say is the state of like the visual arts, fine art community right now? And how would you say you fit into that?
Yeah, one of the great things that I love about the time that we're in now with social media is essentially that everyone has their own personal gallery. Like whether
Mhm.
you're in the fine arts, whether you're in comic books, whether you're in musical arts, whatever creative outlet that you have, you can create your own personal tailored platform for it. And so with social media, not only can you show your own gallery, but then you can also be connected with everybody else's gallery. And one thing I love about like Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or any of these apps is that you can get connected to people who have the same image as you. So it's
Mhm.
like when I open up my Instagram, it's pretty much just all different types of artists who have the same sort of inclinations that I do, or
Mhm.
even just different ones who just have completely just like abstract work. That's something that I never understood when I was a child, but now growing up and actually appreciating it and seeing exactly where people are coming from, it's just like abstract artists are just phenomenal. They're incredible. They encapsulate a moment or a feeling, and then they just put that on the page or on the canvas. So that is to say that with all of these personalized galleries that are out here on each of these social media platforms, it just leads itself to more creativity and more connection with
Mhm.
these highly creative people. So I do definitely feel like my work fits in because you can see a whole bunch of different types of work. You can see a whole bunch of different types of artists, and there are so many people on this planet who are just incredible. So it just feels nice. So I definitely do, and
Okay.
I do feel like my work fits in with that, and
Okay.
I also feel that um, the sheer connectivity of social media makes it so that it's far easier to do it than any other time before.
Mm.
I know learning about different artistry movements and everything like that. There was like the Dada movement to go against
Mhm.
all of the really strict rules and situations that artists would find themselves in
Yeah.
during that hyper realistic phase and everything of art. Um, but this is just another point in time where it's like things are actually open,
Mhm.
um, and things are more free
Right.
for sure.
Right. Okay. No, that's a great point. Um, so I guess my next question is, what weaknesses do you see in yourself as you progressed in your art journey?
Yeah, major weaknesses, right? I think one thing is that I have a tendency to lose myself in my work,
Mhm.
meaning that I'll more often than not have taken care of myself. I'll probably just draw or create. And, in terms of creation, that's all fine and dandy. But in terms of actually living, it's not so great. So definitely drinking water, eating food. That's actually one of my
Mhm.
shortcomings.
That's crazy.
So it is crazy, but it's like it's true, and I think it just leads to having a passion and really loving to do something shouldn't come at the expense of who you are and your health and respecting yourself and respecting your body.
Hmm.
That's always been one of my own personal struggles, both in social and like literally just physically respecting my body and everything like that.
Yeah.
That's always been one of my issues.
Right.
So identifying that and moving forward, that is really, really crucial, especially for me in my own personal journey and my own art journey.
Right. No.
Um, Respecting my limits. I always like the idea, I was talking about comic books before, and there's always this trope in books where it's like the hero will pass their limits and get to the next,
Hmm.
you know what I'm talking about, like
Hmm.
get to the next level of superpower or whatever. It's like people really don't work like that. Like you can
Hmm.
have determination and you can have motivation, and that's really super crucial and important. But just respecting yourself and treating yourself right is actually going to get you way farther than pushing yourself to crazy hours to do whatever, and then burning out later. Like you're just going to shorten your time on this planet,
Hmm.
which is already short regardless. So it's like definitely taking that time is something that's really crucial for me. Making sure that I'm getting the right proper sleep, making sure that I'm eating the right foods,
Hmm.
working out, doing those exercises, going on trips, going on walks, doing those things outside of my creative and expressive journey. I feel is something that has always been a shortcoming, but I'm actively working to get better
Yes.
at for
No.
sure.
Okay. That's an important point. I'm glad you say that because, like, you look at the times now and no sleep, all work, X, Y, and Z are like glorified, but it's like comes in at an expense when you do that.
Mm.
When you start operating in the just because I want to reach my goals, I'm going to neglect everything else about who I am and about my health. So I'm definitely glad you raised that point. So I watched like the Joe Budden podcast. I don't know if you watch it at all.
Mm.
Um, but there was one of the hosts made a comment, and one of the comments they made was that an artist just can't be an artist. And when he said that directed more towards like recording artists, just because they feel like, okay, in some regards, your work can't just speak for itself. There's other things you have to do to bring your ideas, your concepts, and your product to the forefront. What's your take on that?
An artist can't just be an artist. So I have two particular viewpoints on that. One
Hmm.
that confirms the statement and the other that kind of refutes it.
Uh huh.
Um, so to confirm it, I do agree, right? An artist can't just be an artist if we're talking about it from the standpoint that to be successful or to be um I guess it's like to be independent, you
Hmm.
can't just be an artist. You have to do certain things to fulfill a quota, which is your rent, which is your livelihood. So you do have to meet certain criteria, meaning you have to be a business person as well as being an artist to be successful or to eat, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have other skills other than just being able to draw really well or paint really well or sing really well. You have to be able to connect with other people. You have to make networks. You have to build in a certain way that will house your creativity. You can't just have your stuff out in the open and out in the elements. You have to build a foundation for yourself
Mm-hmm.
in that way. If we take it from that context,
Right.
my other point of view from it, which is kind of to refute it,
Mm-hmm.
which would be like, no, you can just be an artist, but you have to take it for what being an artist is.
Okay.
Being an artist specifically is, by nature of the word artist, you just create. You are a creator. You do things. You create your work. You build something. You sing something. You make it,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do that. But you have to accept all of the consequences, good and bad, that come with it. And one of those things would be the shortcoming of being flippant or creating just to create, and you'll lose something with that. You lose money, you lose time, you lose whatever. You will lose something with that creation. Although this can be counterbalanced with just having a good network. Let's say that you are an artist, that's what you want to do through and through. You
Mm-hmm.
don't want to work on marketing, you don't want to work on networking. I mean, networking to an extreme degree. You don't want to do editing, you just want to create your work.
Mm-hmm.
But other people are good at those aspects that you don't want to do. So if you connect with those people, then you can build a platform that way by virtue of having good, solid people on your team.
Leverage your
Although,
resources.
yeah, good resources. But of course, that consequence being, if you have a pot, you got to split it, like that sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing. But
Mm-hmm.
it's, to me, that's neither here nor there. It's up to the person. What do they want, you know?
Okay. Right.
And it's like, I'm guessing you're saying that Joe Budden, because I've watched a few of his podcasts and stuff like that. He's mainly centered on musical
Yeah.
art and musical artistry.
Mm-hmm.
And I did watch a podcast just recently, or at least a clip, where he was talking about the challenges of being a musical artist in today's age and the pros and cons that come with it.
Yeah.
One of the pros being, this is the absolute best time for any independent artist to be heard by everybody,
Right.
because we have Spotify, because we have YouTube, because we have all of these different apps and social media accounts that can literally transfer all that information.
Yeah.
But this is also one of the worst times to actually make money with that, because the amount of consumers that actually want or are willing to pay for that,
Mm-hmm.
like music, is just at an all-time low.
And it's
You have
flooded,
YouTube.
flooded with
Yeah.
artists.
Yeah, like literally, you have YouTube. You can click the play button. You don't have to pay a dime. You don't even have to hit the like or subscribe. You just play it, love the song, love it to death, watch it a million times,
Never buy
but
it.
you don't pay a dime.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So with that, it's more challenging. I think it's a little bit more challenging than to just be an artist in a fine artsy sort of setting, where it's like the idea is to procure this art. The idea is, oh, I'm creating something, and if you like it, you're gonna put it in your house, like that sort of thing. That's the idea. Versus music, people now think about it in a more flippant, like, oh well, it's here, I love it, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
worth anything. Like that's the idea,
Right.
which of course we know is untrue. There's a falsehood to that, but still,
Okay.
there's a lot of ways to break that down.
Right.
I
Right.
think I could go on, but
No, I
I'll
think
stop it.
yeah, no, I think the two approaches and two perspectives of looking at it are definitely like great points to make. I've seen that, for instance, you've been able to manage actually getting monetary value out of your work. So how
Mm.
were you able to do that?
See, that's one thing that if I knew the full answer,
Uh huh. You take off.
I'd be rich, and I'm not. The short answer is literally just building and being a consistent resource.
Mm-hmm.
I know that that's something that's really crucial, and also something that like artists don't really talk about
Mm-hmm.
is taking some entrepreneurship classes. Like educating yourself in how business works, even on a very basic or fundamental level,
Mm-hmm.
because we're human beings, so we're always built to learn. So you just jumping into something, you're going to learn the do's and don'ts naturally by bumping your head against the wall. But it's always good to have that resource, because there are people who have bumped their head against the wall and then wrote everything down and
Mm-hmm.
said, "Oh, that didn't work. This works. That does." So it's like learning those tips and tricks, talking to people who have a full or at least partial understanding of what's going on or what's happening, getting yourself familiar with that, it is very crucial. Me and my own personal journey, that's something that I'm always working with and struggling with, to be honest, because my brain is more oriented and more well trained to be an artist than it is
Mm-hmm.
to be a business person, to be a
Mm-hmm.
businessman. That's
Right.
something that I have to actively work on and build up. Something that I'm finding challenging now is the actually marketing side of business, to fully commit to, yo, this is what I'm doing. This is X, Y, and Z. This is how it's going to be. And putting myself out there in that way.
Right.
There's a certain level of shyness and apprehension that I have towards that concept, but that concept is very crucial if you're running any type of business, because no matter what you're doing, you're going to need to market your work. You need to feel comfortable in that, because that's how you make your business flourish.
Right.
Um, so short answer, I don't know. Short answer, I'm trying my best. I'm going to continue to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very thankful for the strides that I've made, especially recently. 2020 has been a very great year for me in terms of building and in terms of learning and making those connections, having
Mm-hmm.
consistent customer base. These years, I believe, are very crucial, and just more foundational years for me and my journey. Um, but yeah,
Okay.
I'm just trying.
All right. No, that's awesome. And like,
Short answer.
based on even some of the comments and statements you're making with talking about growth and everything, then would you say that your personal growth and artistic growth have like moved in tandem? And do you think that when someone sees your work, in some ways it can be a reflection of your growth as a person?
That's a very interesting question. I think yes. I'm gonna say majority yes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've always had this ideology where people's art, people's work,
Mm-hmm.
music, visual, whatever, people's work is the closest approximation of who that person is. And they literally just put it on the page for you. They let you listen to it. They let you hear it. This is where that person is at. This
Mm-hmm.
is their literally their most vulnerable state, because from themselves, from their temple, they created something that can be seen, that
Mm-hmm.
can be heard, you know? So it's
Right.
like that's the purest essence of who that person is. And of course, we as human beings, we change and transition throughout time. We live
Mm-hmm.
a whole life and we're not the same 10 years before than we are 10 years after. That just doesn't happen. People will continue to learn and grow based on the interactions that we have and the things that we see. And so our art, I do believe, changes and grows with us. You can see how an artist feels. Like look at Picasso. This dude does just he does phenomenal work, but
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't do the same type of work. He continually changes or continually changed and tweaked the stuff that he wanted to do
Right.
just based on how he felt during that day, during that year, during that month, whatever. He just changed that. And that's an extreme example. Most times artists stick with like a certain path and then go forward that way. But
Uh-huh.
you will see those tweaks and changes throughout the years for sure. And I do agree with that statement. It does come um, in tandem with that personal experience, with that personal journey,
Okay.
for sure.
Uh,
One thing that I find really interesting with my own personal work is that just that transition and change, especially. It's weird because I look at my old work, especially like in high school, and I was
mhm.
like, dang, maybe I was depressed. Like, my high school work was a little iffy, you know?
Mhm.
I'm like, I was drawing some kids like crying and stuff, and I'm like, oh man, someone needed to talk to that guy. But it's a vulnerable state, but it's also like it's in its purest form. So
Right.
for sure, I can agree. I'm
Okay.
wrapping my head around it. I definitely agree.
Okay. Would you think there's a possibility that your work, for instance, the state that it's at, based on what you're saying, it could change into something else like years from now?
I fully expect it to.
Okay.
I'm at this stage right now where my heavy emphasis is on women and animals, especially because I just enjoy and appreciate drawing life. Like
Mm-hmm.
we see right now, especially during 2020, we are getting hit by so many different things. And of course, we've lived on this planet, so there's always been issues.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, it feels like there's an incredible weight because of course, the pandemic, of course, all of the political situations going down because of worldly situations. People are just getting hit by this.
Right.
And people are getting hit by life in general. And so people's art usually depicts what they see in life. But negativity is really easy to focus on, regardless of
Mm-hmm.
how many good things happen. You could have a great day and then one negative thing happens and then
Yep.
it completely messes your day up,
Right.
you know? But it's like for me and where I'm at, I would rather focus on those things that make me feel whole as an individual,
Mm-hmm.
that make me feel well, that make me feel better. Um, that the things that I love. I would rather spend my time and my hours creating that
Mm-hmm.
than all of the just the nasty stuff that we can focus on, you know?
Right.
For sure.
And I mean, just so with you even saying that, like on a day, you create work or post your work on the daily. So how do you keep up with that consistency when there is variability in how we're going to feel day by day? Because you're posting all this like positive work all the time, creating all the time, um, which is easier when it's coming from a positive space all the time. But as we know in real life, that um, isn't always the case. So how are you able to
Mm,
push through when things are not going well?
mm, that's that's real. The way I see it, right? And I guess with my explanation, I told a lot
Hmm.
because I guess it's not necessarily the fact that I'll focus on things that are happy necessarily,
Hmm.
then I'd focus on things that are uplifting.
Uh-huh.
Follow me on this one, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like with my art, of course, no, just in life, you
Hmm.
cannot, it is physically impossible to feel happy all the time. I
Right.
remember there was a stage in my life where I wanted to present myself in a way where it's like, oh, I'm happy, I'm glad, I'm doing this, I'm great, I'm doing that. And I wanted to be in that state at all times. And if I
Uh-huh.
wasn't happy, that meant that something was off and something was wrong.
Hmm.
And there's a major fallacy in that because happiness is just an emotion. It is a point in time like any other emotion. Happiness is like sadness, like anger, like frustration. These things will come and then like every emotion they'll go.
Right.
And so with that ideology, I shifted it around in my own personal life where it's just like, no, I don't need to be happy all the time. What I do need to be is centered all the time.
Mm.
Centered is not
Mm.
an emotion. Centered is a state of being. It is a place where you rest and you know that you can stretch out in any way, but then you always come back to that
Hmm.
stable
Like
center,
your
that
inner
stable core.
like your inner peace.
Yeah, it's like an inner peace. That peace should not shift. You can be mad, you can be
Hmm.
pissed, you can be very frustrated. But at the end of the day, after that emotion dissipates, like all of them do, that inner peace will creep back. And
Okay.
then you'll find that center and you'll find that rhythm. So the same way in my personal life, I handle that with my art as well. Some days I just feel bad. Some days I'm upset. Like the current situation with all of the things going on with the Black Lives Matter movement and everything like that. So all of the names that we are just hit by on a day-to-day basis, it's like it gets you in a certain headspace. And especially when we were hit, George Floyd's death and everything,
Hmm.
it's like I was in such a bad headspace. I was in a space where it's like I was just sick and I couldn't draw the things that made me happy. So instead, I drew the things that made me push,
Uh-huh.
that pushed me to my core, pushed me to my center, the things that I wanted to say, but
Hmm.
it wasn't in a state of death, you know?
Right.
It's like, and what I equate to death is like drawing our people, my people, myself in a position where I lose all my power or I give all my power away.
Mm-hmm.
Like a very crucial aspect of my art that I want to push is a state of empowerment, regardless of being sad or not, regardless of being happy or not. The whole point is about the pushing for that empowerment. Um, so pretty much with my work, I really wanted to focus on that center, not necessarily pushing for a happy emotion all the time, but pushing for an authentic emotion with an empowerment center at its base.
Right.
So some days I'll feel sick. Like
Mm-hmm.
some days, like it doesn't matter what's going on. Some days it's just I just feel bad. But that doesn't detract from me creating something. I create something every day. I usually post things every day or every 2 days, but I'll create something every single day, no matter what. And I'll push that thing to where it needs to be, in my opinion, to where I feel really settled with it, regardless of my emotion. And I'll take my current emotion, whatever I'm feeling, I'll place it in my art. So sometimes we'll have characters or situations where it's like they're in a point of being unsure about something or being lost in something. But I always like to put in the breadcrumb that it's like that feeling of being lost only comes when you're lost. But if you continue to try, you continue to work, you continue to move, you will find your way. Like that's the edge I like to place into my pieces. I don't like to maroon the viewer.
Right. Right. No, that's
So
an amazing point, and that's an amazing perspective. So with that said, would you also say that you're able to find inspiration every single day as well, since you are creating every single day? Or is this something where you consider just a discipline of creating, as irrespective of whether I even feel like I have a really strong idea or not, I am going to create, I am going to make?
yeah. Um For sure. Inspiration is a funny word. And I've always heard that split where it's like you either need to draw every single day, just doesn't matter what, just put that on the page and everything like that, or like follow your heart and your art will come to you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like I'm in the middle because it's not like I do draw every single day and I usually create multiple pieces, or one, at least one piece every single day, or just multiple pieces during a day.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's just because I need to do that. It's where it's like, oh, I need to fulfill this quota, I need to do that. Some days it's like, yeah, I'm behind, I definitely need to hit out this or do this sketch or whatever like that. Especially when we think about social media, they have certain algorithms where if you don't post or do something, then they'll completely shut out your work. But that's a completely other topic.
Uh-huh.
So there's some days where it's like, yeah, you definitely need to hit that button or whatever. But for me, I truly just draw every single day because I just love art. I love creating,
Okay.
and it's in a point where I will create regardless of what's going on. I love talking to my friends and family. I love watching movies. I love doing other things. And I also just really freaking love art. Like I'm drawing right now as we're talking.
I believe it.
Like,
I believe it.
yeah, it's like it's to a point where art is kind of a second nature for me, where like art is the norm. It's gotten like at work and everything like that. I've been working for the National Park Service for a little minute. They all know it's like I'm an artist as well. I'm doing the creative sort of thing and everything like that. And they look at me and they're just like, if I'm not drawing, they're gonna ask if something's
Something's
wrong.
wrong.
Because yeah, because it's like, and then or if I'm at school or when I was at school, if I wasn't drawing, people were gonna ask what's wrong. Because the only times I stop drawing on like 100% is if something just hit me.
Right. Right. Right.
Like my mom was going through health problems a little while back. This was about 2 years ago. And I found it incredibly, that was a point in my life where I had to intentionally push myself to continue to create. Because I was just stuck in that essentially that depression.
Right.
But more often than not, regular Elijah is creating something. And I think I think I create, and I guess inspiration would be a good word for it. But because I'm just inspired by the beauty that I see in life, that's what pushes me to create. But I think I really love art. I
Right,
really love drawing.
right. Wow, that's amazing. Um, and so even just talking about that, like earlier we mentioned the art community, for instance, and talking about how you fit into that. What would you say were some of your worst and best experiences as far as that goes, and as far as um, just your art journey in general?
Mm. So I'm thinking about it, right?
Hmm.
My whole theory on life is that no matter what things, the things you learn, if they're positive, negative, they're always going to continue to push you to where you want to go.
Hmm.
But now thinking about the question, a bad experience doesn't detract from it being a bad experience, whether you learn something from it or
Hmm.
not. I think some of just general experiences would be just interacting with people who you have to explain how art works, like especially when you're trying to make money with
Uh-huh,
it. though,
uh-huh.
though it's not fun because of course there's always the stigma that as an artist you're just going to be broke, and the starving artist stigma,
Hmm.
where creators create out of their mother's basements essentially,
Right.
or they create out of their cars, or they're doing this and that, and there's like a sort of a struggle to it,
Uh-huh.
which was definitely popularized by Vincent Van Gogh, who
Hmm.
was essentially, for lack of better words, a struggling artist.
Right.
People don't really talk about his health issues and mental health and everything like that, even though, of
Hmm.
course, during his time, that wasn't even a big thing to talk about,
Right.
or even anything that was really truly acknowledged.
Right.
And even now, current day, that's people still have a hard time acknowledging mental health,
Right.
and where that
Right.
goes. But this fallacy or idea that to be an artist is to be starving is just untrue.
Hmm.
um, if you put the time, the effort, the knowledge base, the learning, the understanding, all of those good words and the consistency into the same pot, you will reap a reward.
Right.
Uh,
Strategy.
that's the same with anything in life. You put in the time and effort to do something, you're going to get it. You
Right.
will get the pros and cons. It's not to say that being a full-time artist or doing something in the arts is going to be glamorous to an extreme
Hmm.
degree. Just like anything, you will have your pros and cons, but to be successful in that is just a possibility. It's just something you can do in life.
Okay.
Um so expounding upon that, rounding all the way back to the original question, some of my worst experiences that I had to work to get better at would be interactions with people who have interview questions on how are you going to avoid starving being an artist.
Mm.
you know and
Right.
it's like that's something that I had to really work at getting over,
Hmm.
and it comes straight from just insecurity at being figuring out where my own art journey is going to take me, and how things are going to be, and oh, I gotta be better than what they expect or do this and that.
Hmm.
Getting over that hump for myself alleviated any sort of response of or any sort of interaction coming from someone who would approach it from a negative angle, would
Hmm.
approach it from a point of, yeah, well, so what you gonna do, like how you gonna make this work, like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like how I handle interactions like that now is either I'll take, if the person is interested,
Uh-huh.
because sometimes people don't have any malice in their heart when they ask questions like that.
Hmm.
Like, how are you going to do this? If the person's interested, I'll have a conversation,
Right.
because it's something that people don't really do. It's tough to find an artist, and then it's also tough to find an artist business person, someone who actually funds their life or funds their work through their art.
Right.
um so it's a rare thing. So talking to a person like that and explaining things and shooting things back and forth, some people just want a genuine conversation.
Right.
um for the others who are kind of malice with it, or what's the word I'm looking for? Just gross with it, I
Mm-hmm.
don't give them the time of day.
Mm-hmm.
The way I see it, things will be how they will be.
Right.
I'm going to get where I'm going, and then when I do, I'm not gonna. It's not a point of, ooh, look at me, look, I did this. No, it's
Uh-huh.
just kind of yeah, life will move on,
Okay.
because that's where it's at.
So
So
that
that's negative.
right.
Um, positive, right?
Oh, I'm
Uh,
so glad because I had this feeling that maybe you're gonna miss the positive. You're on,
oh
man. You're
no.
on.
Ooh, never. There's the thought. Now, positive. Like I said, I think everything's positive. Like
Mhm.
even those interactions, like I truly find joy in viewing things from an angle of understanding. Once you understand where something's at, especially for me, let me speak for myself.
Uh-huh.
When I
Uh-huh.
understand where someone's at or where someone's coming from, then
Mhm.
I can't really have a negative viewpoint from it. I can only
Mhm.
come at it from a point of understanding and positivity and growth, you know?
Mhm.
So it's like negative stuff like that, I see as a positive. Like I see as another experience to grow. And
Right.
then positive stuff like I'm just thinking of just the people that I meet, the artists that I talk to,
Mhm.
the people, like, especially, I mean, everything's shut down now,
Right.
but when everything was open up and everything like that, doing my own shows and everything like that, my solo exhibitions and group exhibitions, just talking to people, seeing where they're coming from, learning new things, learning new techniques. One of the coolest experiences I had was a group exhibition. I think this was back in 2019.
Mhm.
And it was just talking to, there was like several hundred artists at this one spot. And it's just like learning their stories, learning where they came from, learning their process. I truly find it beautiful, for sure. But I it's a cheap answer, but I'd say everything.
Right.
Everything is
No, no, I mean that's real
positive.
because sometimes it's not even one thing, it's just a multitude of things that you keep experiencing or observing. In speaking about like all these experiences and stuff and your art journey, um, what would you say is when you feel that, okay, I am living my dream? Like, what's your idea of living the dream or being successful within this field of work?
Um, I guess it's two-part again, because I think that being content and comfortable where you're at
Mm-hmm.
is important.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, shooting for a dream or goal is super crucial, but it's
Uh-huh.
also a really American ideal, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like we live in America, a place where you're supposed to, quote unquote, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, or um drive and push and go and hammer out and be the person that you want to be and do all the things and everything like that. We live in a take society where it's like
Uh-huh.
you have to continue to take, and if people aren't going to give it, you have to take it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And there's positives in that. You're always going to push yourself to go someplace and do something. But then I think the detractor or the negative to that would be literally being discontented at all times.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this quote. I think, I can't remember. I think it was on Twitter or something like that, where someone was like, "The key to being successful, or my key to being successful, is to be hungry even while eating."
Mm-hmm.
And it's that's American. That's a really American ideal.
Uh-huh.
But I also found a sickness in that,
Right.
where it's like, to always be hungry even while you're eating, like you're never going to be full. You're
Mm-hmm.
never going to be content, or you'll hurt yourself. You'll have to go to the hospital,
Right.
because that sounds kind of painful, you
Mm-hmm.
know? It's like, so the way I see it and the way I think about it is, yes, there are goals that I have in my life that I want to attain. Of course,
Uh-huh.
I have my own. I'm looking up on my wall right now. It's called Big Goals Future.
Uh-huh.
I just have a piece of paper on my wall that says Big Goals Future.
Uh-huh.
But I wrote all of them down, but
Mm-hmm.
I have made a point to not look or read that.
Mm.
It's there. I
Okay.
don't. I couldn't tell you what's on it. Like I glance at it, I can see the big goals future. I can't tell you what's on it,
Mm.
because that's not really my focus. I already know what I'm going to do. I already know that I'm practicing good habits. I'm practicing health habits. I'm
Mm,
practicing learning more,
yeah,
creating, connecting with my clientele base. Like I'm practicing healthy habits. I'm going to get where I'm going. I know that to be a truth.
right,
It's a fact of life. You put the time in, you get what you get. But also looking at the state of affairs of where you're at right now
hmm,
and being joyful in that, or just being content in that as well.
hmm,
I think that's a super important aspect to life, that not a lot of people really talk about.
right,
It's like if you're always going to push to get something and you always keep that feeling in your heart that you have to be somewhere else, then
hmm.
you're always going to feel that.
You're not
You're
enjoying where you are
always going to
at.
feel like you are.
Yeah,
You so well.
you're not enjoying where you currently at. You're not even seeing the blessings that are coming in
Yes.
your current state. Right.
Yeah, you're not enjoying the blessings. You're not really feeling it. You're not living. You're just
Hmm.
you're living to be somewhere else, anywhere else, you
But
know?
you're but where you
And
are.
then where you are. And I feel that sad. I do think there's a
Hmm.
sad element to that.
Right.
I truly think that pushing to where you're going to go, but also looking at the state of affairs and going, this, thank you. Just
Hmm.
being thankful.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's very big. So that's where I'm at.
Bro, no, that's an
I
awesome
didn't answer
point.
your question though, but
But
yeah,
I don't even. I
that's where
mean,
I'm
I
at.
think you kind of have because in some degree, what you're saying is that um, if I'm doing the right things now, does it really matter if I am putting myself in pretty much a position of success every day? Because if
Mm,
every day, like what you're saying, you're practicing good habits, um, and you're focusing on work, and every single time I ask someone about success, they say, "Oh, that comes through being hardworking, being consistent, doing the right things." Then why would you need to press or really worry that in depthly about
yeah,
where it's going to take you? Reaching for the stars is as important as being grateful for where you are. So, would you say that you are a fan of your work? Or and I ask this because I'm wondering whether you, like at least from your observations, you feel like you value your work more because of people's response to it, or you've gotten to the place where you just value your work, or that you just would love your work irrespective of how people would respond to
yeah. I'm a fan.
it.
I like my work. I'll hit the 2 points because you have the second point of um would I like it if other people didn't like it? Like where is that with it?
Hmm.
I hit the first part though, which is like I think that there's this common ideology with artists, especially younger artists I see, where
Hmm.
it's like they'll be like, "Oh, I hate my work.
Uh
Oh
huh.
my god, I hate. Oh, this is trash. Oh, like, can you check out my sketchbook? But it's not that good." Or
Uh
and it's
huh.
like it's to me, I feel like it's people. Fake humble is not the right word.
Uh
That's
huh.
the first word that came to mind, but it's like, or first phrase that came to mind, but it's not fake humble. But it's like
They're
it's
capping.
artists.
Let me stop.
You said what?
They're capping. Let me stop though.
Calm down. Nah, it's like it's not. It's artists trying to be humble, but in
Hmm.
actuality, you're just bashing yourself.
Uh
It's
huh.
like you're being self conscious and it's a form of self harm, but it's
Hmm.
mental self harm
You're playing
where
down your
it's
work.
yeah, you
Hmm.
look at your space, you look at your work, and you go, this is trash. And
Hmm.
I'm gonna knock my work down so that if I talk to somebody and they like it, they'll lift me up.
Uh
And if I
huh.
talk to someone and they don't like it, they won't hurt me as much. It's
Hmm.
like you're lowering your viewers' expectation of what you're bringing in
Hmm.
or what you bring to the table. And I can't get with it.
Yeah. Would you say that's a
Um,
lack of confidence?
Yes,
Mm.
yes, for sure. It's an extreme lack of confidence. And I just think that if you're doing something, especially for an extended amount of time, you damn sure better like it.
Hmm.
Like, and if you're not liking it, then you need to address something in yourself. If you're
Mm.
working at a job that you despise, you should probably work to getting to a position where you do like. And not just staying in like a haze of being whatever, upset or just discontent.
Mm-hmm.
um I feel like, especially with younger artists and everything like that, they get to a point where they really are just shy about their work and they want to knock things down, or they are really unsure about something. But they're putting that feeling and that emotion,
Mm-hmm.
and giving the power away to the viewer instead of
Ah.
maintaining that power with themselves and then sharing it with others.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if that makes sense. So
No, right.
that's my whole little spiel about that. I think that if you make something, you better like it. And if
Mm-hmm.
you don't like it, then it means the work isn't done, and you just got to continue to put lines on the page.
Right.
Um, I think that's the main thing.
Boom, bare
Um,
facts.
yeah. And so the second point, especially starting out, I remember I started out posting my artwork on Facebook.
Uh-huh.
Facebook is a great place to talk to family and friends. My art in particular, not so great on Facebook. I would get maybe one or two likes from my mother and grandmother. Thank God I love them. I really do. Like, I love them. And they still, like, I post on Facebook all the time. I
Mm-hmm.
literally do. I have it set up where I post on Instagram, then automatically post on Facebook.
Uh-huh.
And so I do that. Instagram does what Instagram does. I go on Facebook, I check it like maybe once or twice a week. 7 likes, not bad. But it's like, it makes you think, especially when I started, I was like, dang, like, I guess my work is trash.
Damn.
I said, dang, like, I've been really happy about this, but shoot, no one likes it. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I had to get into a point where it's not about the likes. Likes don't mean anything. No matter if you have 100,000 likes. Like, my Instagram posts get a lot of likes now. Like, they
Mm-hmm.
just do. Especially for the I'm a small account right now, but it's like, for where I'm at, they get a lot of likes.
Uh-huh.
But what is that? What does a like actually mean? You
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's just a person pressing an action on a button based on pre-existing facts. How
Mm-hmm.
many followers do you have? How many likes do you usually get? What content do you post? Da, 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 da.
Uh-huh.
It's like, it doesn't truly matter. And that's the point where it's like, I think people need to be, regardless if they're a big or small account. They'll
Mm-hmm.
give you information, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Since I didn't get likes on Facebook, it told me that people were not seeing my work. Or at least that was
Uh-huh.
my assumption, because maybe my artwork was just trash. But
Nah.
I assumed, because it wasn't getting traction, that meant that people weren't seeing my work. And so I had to switch my platform up into a new platform. I went to
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, and then, quote unquote, likes were rising. So
More
I knew
visibility.
that, okay, people are seeing my stuff.
Okay.
And so that's what I use it for. And it's like, what really gets me though is comments, actually. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't make my work to be uh applauded or paraded around, or the people to say, oh my god, it's just that, that. I don't do it for that. I do it because I just truly love creating work. I truly love drawing Black women. I truly love drawing life. I love drawing animals. I love working with the material. I love that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I do it regardless of if people said it was great or not. But it does hit me when people, especially consistent people, go out of their way to say that this was great, this hit me this way, like to give comments and to give a point of view or to start a conversation. It does truly mean something, because it means the stuff that I'm doing is connecting to someone else, and we can start a dialogue there.
Mm-hmm.
Or especially when I was starting out really small, like,
Yeah.
it really hit me when I won't say her name, but this lady or whatever like that. I was on Facebook. I was posted on Facebook for a while. No one said anything, but I was just still posting up and stuff like that. This one lady, she kept posting on each and every single one of my pages, or each one of my posts and stuff like that. She
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Nice job, great job, keep it up, keep at it." And it's like, that it does mean something, you know?
Uh-huh.
It's like, and it's truly just a piece or a point of compassion from another person to view you where you're at and going, I fuck with that shit. I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
Keep it up. So it's like, I would do it irrespective of if I had follows, if I had likes or whatever, because that's how I started out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still nice.
Right. No, it is. It is.
It's fun. It's cool. It's
So,
cool. And it means a lot.
right.
Truly does.
So at what point did, for instance, did you start seeing it trickle into like becoming a business? Like, was it after a certain number of followers? Because yeah, to a point, like to a degree, it doesn't mean anything. But I know like after you start amassing a specific fan base, you're
Hmm.
able to like influence people to actually purchase your product, or you start getting buyers. At what point did you kind of see that start to happen?
It starts out people want to do commission work.
Okay.
Not a lot of people will want to purchase your actual pieces,
Okay.
just based on the fact that maybe your skills aren't all the way there, or maybe it's the price point, or it could be a whole source of factors. Maybe you don't have enough influence, like follower count and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Because in as much as it doesn't matter, it still does hold weight and still means something to an average person flipping around on Instagram or flipping around
Uh-huh.
on TikTok or whatever. Like that still it still has traction that way.
Right.
But it was just a slow trickle. I got a commission here, post that up, commission there, post that up. And just low amount of money. I'd charge like maybe $40 for a commission just to get that out of the way, to post it up, to get traction, to get things to start moving that way.
Hmm.
The main thing is to set a precedent of what you're about, so
Okay.
that people know what you're about. When
Hmm.
people see me post, it's like they know it's like it's not going to be family pics. I love my family, but it's not going to be family pics. It's barely going to be any personal pics. Will maybe do one or two selfies, but even then, 2020, I've barely done that. It's like
Uh-huh.
literally just going to be artwork, and it's a certain type. You
Right.
need to show your audience that this is what you do, and then afterwards, which is the challenging part, that I'm working on it right now. But it's like showing the people that you are also a business, and
Hmm.
this is what you do as a business, and these are all the things. I'll have very many people asking me different things, that I thought was clear for myself, but was not made very clear because of how I presented the information out. So that's another thing that, I had to work on and am still working on, is being very consistent,
Hmm.
in showing people X, Y, and Z. Like, oh, I sell prints. Oh, I also do commissions. Oh, I also do this, do that, do that.
Right.
And it's like people can understand the concept of a commission, but they don't know everything that goes into it, because a commission is a very rare thing. Like, when's the last time you commissioned anyone to do anything? You know,
Hmm.
it's like, besides maybe home improvement or car maintenance,
Right.
it's like that's all the experience people have into it, and those are very rare things that you do once and then it's done. Car maintenance probably multiple times, but you know what I'm saying. It's like,
Right.
it's tougher to get people accustomed and acclimated to that certain
So could you speak more on
aspect of
that?
it.
Like delve into like, yeah, what is a commission? What are the misconceptions? And
Yeah.
yeah.
So pretty much a commission, especially in the art world, is a drawing done by an artist for a person who is willing to purchase a piece, i.e., the client.
Okay.
Commission work is usually done, on a case by case basis, meaning that there's probably a flat rate that the artist is working with in their head, but then
Uh-huh.
that commission can rise or fall with complexity.
Okay.
Let's give an example. So maybe an artist wants to, or no, a person wants a piece, right?
Hmm.
They're like, oh, I just want a little piece, a little small 8 by 10 or 8 inch by 10 inch, piece drawing.
Hmm.
How much can you do that for? The artist goes, oh, I can do that for $50, but he doesn't say that, or she doesn't say that. They go, what is in the piece? Like, what do you want me to draw? And then they
Uh-huh.
go, oh, well, I need you to draw a background, and I need you to add color, and I need you to put four figures in it, and I need you to da da da. Then that $50 goes from 50 to 200 based on the information that was needed in that piece.
Uh-huh.
Um, and that's why commissions are so tricky, because people assume that it's going to be a certain way, and they don't really have an understanding or a concept of art in general. They don't
Hmm.
understand the time that goes into it, and what they're paying for, essentially, which is the mastery of the commissioner, or of the
Hmm.
artist,
Hmm.
essentially. And I can't blame anybody for that. It's like, how many times do you ask anyone to commission? Like, for me, I don't. I think I've commissioned like one person to do an art piece, and
Hmm.
I'm an artist and I do commissions.
Right. Right.
So it's like, you can't blame anybody for being ignorant about something that you don't encounter all the time. So it's always challenging that way.
Okay.
Um, But it's just certain stuff like that. It's like coming out with a baseline understanding,
Mhm.
um, and the experience that goes behind it. Those are the main things that are pretty challenging with it.
Okay, okay, and I'm sure, like, yeah, even uh, them wanting you to correct certain things that they didn't like initially state. For
Mm.
instance, like, oh, why did you make it this way? It's like, well, you didn't tell me how to make it.
You didn't really go in. It's
Yeah.
like people have that thank you for saying that, because people have another it's tough for a client, right?
Mhm.
Especially if you're coming to someone to draw something, you're
Mhm.
coming to them because they can do something that you physically can't do at that particular moment.
Uh huh.
The client has not built up their motor skills to do the thing that they want to do in their head.
Mhm.
They can do that, they can. As
Right.
long as you got hand-eye coordination, you can do that. But at that time, you can't. You
Mhm.
just can't. You have to build that up over a series of time. You
Right.
have geniuses, child geniuses, they can do it instantly, but we don't count those guys.
Right.
So it's like that client wants the artist to do this and
Mhm.
do it right and do it how they see it in their head. And it's super challenging for the artist to actually do that. It's almost like decoding a language that you've never heard before. And you're expecting the client to use all of their language skills to express what's coming through their head. It's like explaining a dream. It's tough, it's challenging. And so some clients come out and they get it and they know X, Y, and Z, and then they want the artist to do just whatever. Like I want you to do okay. For instance, a client I had 2 months ago, they just came up and they're just like, yo, so I want you to do an art piece, and I just want you to make it inspirational. I'm looking for an inspirational,
Mhm.
happy. You can add an animal, but do something along those lines.
Uh huh.
That's easier for a representational artist like myself to do, because I've drawn a lot of pieces where I felt inspirational or happy and stuff like that, and I can
Uh
do a lot of
huh.
sketches.
Yeah.
But let's say a person comes up and they're just like, "Yeah, I want you to draw an elephant eating a physical manifestation of a cry or of a tear." You know what I'm saying? And then the artist goes, "Well, how the fuck do I do
Right.
that?"
Right. Right.
It's like some people, for example, I think it was a few weeks ago,
Mhm.
someone came up to me and they were like, "Hey, I need you to do pretty much a logo design,
Mhm.
but I want you to do Black Lives Matter logo design, and I need you to make the words Black Lives Matter into a person, and then do da 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 da." It's like that's so far removed from the art that I usually do, or
Uh
that I've
huh.
pretty much presented that I do.
Yeah.
That is challenging.
That's some Illustrator something, like Adobe Illustrator.
Yeah,
Yeah.
y- like literally, it's just a whole other person's deal. That's a whole other person's gig.
Mhm.
So it's like there's so many different ripples and uh speed bumps that people can go through just by trying to commission a certain artist. But I do believe that it's the artist's job to be respectful to the client regardless of whatever they're asking. Like,
Right.
it's completely inappropriate for an artist to blow up on somebody, or like
Right.
literally just berate them because they don't understand how commissions work. You
Mhm.
know, it's like you see a whole bunch, like especially on Instagram, Twitter, and stuff like that, of artists just frying the shit out of clients or potential clients, because they had a misunderstanding or of what the artist would do and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And it's like, even for me, like even if the client is disrespectful to me personally,
Mhm.
I'm not going to be disrespectful back.
Mhm.
That's not my place to do that. I don't run my business that way. I don't
Right.
talk to people that way. It's like, I'm going to treat the client with respect at all times, regardless of how they're handling it, or regardless of what they want me to do and what I can or cannot do. I'm going to explain exactly what I do,
Uh
what
huh.
how much is charged and everything like that. But I'm not going to be an asshole with it. Like,
Right.
it's completely inappropriate.
Right. No, that's an awesome point. That's very true. Like, it's a service. It's a client service, so you have to be respectful. I agree.
Mm.
So with all that said, what resources or tools do you feel an artist of today should utilize in their art journey?
Mm. TikTok.
No, no, I think that's an amazing point.
Yeah, I mean, that's me personally, but maybe it'll be a generalized sort of thing. But one thing I've always been averse to is like starting new stuff. I'm a very stubborn person.
Mm-hmm.
So if people present me an idea, especially one that would be more efficient than whatever I'm doing now,
Mm-hmm.
I'll usually probably do the dumb thing before I switch over, and it'll probably
Mm-hmm.
take me a while before I do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just because of the way my brain's set up, it's one thing I got to work
Okay.
on. TikTok was definitely a really cool resource because it's so new. The algorithm's really nice for up and coming people.
Mm-hmm.
People see your work, and it's not shaded like most other or the other social media that I've worked with or used.
Right.
It doesn't ask for money before it shows people your stuff.
Okay.
Um, but definitely just that and consistency is for sure the major point of you, no matter what. Consistency is a thing that isn't really shaded.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody says it, but it needs to be said again. It's like that's major. That's real.
Okay. Yeah. So consistency, hard work, and at least and your based on you mentioning TikTok, I'm like just exposing yourself to trying new things,
Yeah.
trying new platforms, um, and not being so stuck in your way.
Yeah, like literally just being flexible with anything and everything. And that TikTok example bleeds into everything else. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, just try it out. If it does not work, that doesn't mean you failed at something. It just means it didn't work. And then you'll just try something else out. Like
Mm-hmm.
the only time you can't do something is when you're dead, like when you die. So
Right.
if you're not dead, then you can continue to try something. Um, and you'll just get where you're going that way.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
I think this is a great amount of information right here. And with that, I'm going to ask you one final question. It's going to be a little bit random. But if there was one thing that you could get an answer to in this entire world, what would it be?
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Here's my plan, right? So when I die, because it's no secret, when I die, I'm gonna get in the line to God.
Hmm.
I'm gonna be in that line because he's gonna have the line available. You're
Right.
gonna have all the resort stuff or whatever like that. You can go drink your tequila because I don't drink at all, but I'll probably drink when I get to heaven.
Hmm.
You'll have all sorts of things or whatever like that, and then you'll have that line, the line
Hmm.
of people waiting to talk to God, and I'll wait in that line for as long as it takes, 100 years, 200 years, I don't care. I'll be in
Hmm.
that line. As soon as I get to him, I'm gonna look him dead in his eyes. I'll be like, first of all, it's a pleasure being here. Second of all, I'm glad. I'm glad. I like the decor. It's nice. Snacks were great. I'm be like, look, why? Like, life is ridiculous, and it's unfair to an extreme degree. Like,
Hmm.
you see, I've been talking about Animal Planet for a minute.
Hmm.
It's like you look at Animal Planet, you see like there are deer and they're just getting curb stomped by wolves and stuff. Like
Damn.
you go to the safari
Hmm.
and you go or the savannah, excuse me, and then you see like wildebeest getting just completely destroyed by hyenas or something. I don't know.
Hmm.
It's like it's not fair. Stuff's not fair. That's my question is why.
Hmm.
And I know that's not the best one, but it's general enough so that I can hopefully get the full answer to
Hmm. Hmm. I mean, no,
it.
it's a fair question. I mean,
So
we see a cycle of death in our world. So, like, of things killing things. This mammal kill this mammal, when humans are killing other things, destroying other things, and it's like a whole constant cycle of creation, destruction, creation, destruction. So no, I think that's an interesting point. I think probably everyone kind of also thinks about that to some degree. So that's a good point. I'll stop here. But bro, thank you for this amazing interview.
thank you,
I
man.
think I think you're an amazing resource to people that kind of again would want to follow similar suit or would want to put themselves out there and maybe don't even know if they can or if they're too shy. I like the fact that you touched on some of your weaknesses because you are showing that again I'm human and you are showing that even within those weaknesses, you can get to even where you're at now. And I think that's amazing for people to know. So again, thank you. I'm glad you're able to grace the Art Sounds Familiar platform, and all the best to you. And I'll, I'll continue to follow your journey, and I hope the audience will as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, man. This
No
was fun.
problem. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Like, comment, and subscribe for more content.